As you know, if you've watched either of these, there's no back and forth. These people are on the same. The Trimet people and the county people are both on the same side here. There's no. It's not an actual agency that's looking at Trimet in a critical way. They're both on the same side. And if you listen to the questioning, the questions only go question, answer, question, answer. There's no challenging of the Trimet answers by these county hacks. These are all technocrats doing their technocratic thing.
James?
Yeah, so Trimet is committed this year, as you said in your presentation, and last year in your opening remarks as well, to improving on-time performance of the buses MAX and WES. Can you talk to us about the progress that you've made on this commitment, what has been implemented so far, how you're measuring progress, and what the plans for the future are?
I think Doug or Neil could. You want to start, Doug?
Sure, I'll maybe kick this part off. Maybe I'll divide the comments into three parts. So first of all, talk about MAX, and then WES, and thirdly around the bus system. In the case of MAX, back in early 2016, we put a team together and we started looking at the long-term trending of the on-time performance for MAX, and we could see over quite a number of years it was slowly eroding. So with a really cross-functional team, we put a robust plan together to attack this. So when we started, we were somewhere around 79.7% over the previous year, and that had been declining at the back end of that 12-month period. We're now tracking, currently, in fact, just checking the numbers out every day, the last 31 days, we're actually at 87.9%.
Well, you know how I feel about Trimet statistics. They're very questionable. But taking his and saying that, okay, they're true. I don't know. I have plenty of questions about it, but I know one thing for sure here is that when the orange line came on, the reliability of the light rail system in general crashed. Okay, that was the cause and the effect. He's not talking about that. He's trying to paint this other picture. But as somebody who watches these operations from an outsider point of view and watches them daily, I can tell you when the thing crashed. It's when the orange line came on. So you don't need to be some six-figure technocrat to understand that. Now, he's saying that they've gotten better since he's been here. See, he saved us. That's a lot of, I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, you don't know whether what they're telling you is true or not, okay? We don't have any way to verify anything that comes out of a Trimet executive's mouth. It's assumed they're telling the truth, but I think that's a pretty crazy assumption many times.
Wow. So we've come up substantially, and in fact, one of our really intelligent analysts and I were just looking at some of the numbers. In fact, the first time since tracking, we've had 8 days in a row. The last 8 days, including this morning, is actually over 90%. Wow. So we're on our way. The goal is, job one was stabilize an eroding on-time performance model, but now the team is just showing tremendous focus. That focus is really unbundled into several key areas: infrastructure, training. We have some great operators out there. We had a lot of new operators out there, and we always go through a curve of how do you get them settled in on a growing and complex railway. Back in 2007, we had a few lines. Now we're up to 5 lines, and with that, the terrain for each is very different. So we have tremendous more amount of work to continue to do here, but I think the team should be proud of what they've been able to achieve so far over a relatively short period of time when there's a lot of it is culture and attention to detail. So that would be the MAX system.
I'm always very suspicious when transit executives start pointing fingers at the culture of the employees. We know that executive culture thrives by making the employees the enemy, and the public believes everything that comes out of the executive's mouth, and the press pushes it. They'll make a comment. We have the richest benefits in the world, which was untrue. But everybody in Portland believed it because the media pushed it, and they're just following the line that Trimet tells them to follow. I mean, if you look at the Portland media, you'll see that Trimet owns the media. There's no critical media of Trimet ever. they'll publish whatever Trimet says to publish. He's trying to say, well, there was a cultural problem before, but we're fixing that. You know, I have my doubts when I hear that shit. You know, I had my doubts. Might have been a management problem there. Okay, certainly not a culture. Certainly, you know, everything that happens within the system is a result of management, not as a result of the employees. So when they try to turn things around and make the employees the enemy, you should automatically realize that that's just a technique to save your own ass, because everything that happens in the system is the responsibility of the management. It's not the employees making the decisions, it's the management making the decisions.
Just ask a quick question on the max operator.
Sure.
How long does it typically take, do you find, to get somebody what you would consider trained on max operation?
Well, they go through, the initial training class is about 12 weeks.
Okay.
However, that's just before you get out there and you, so to speak, get the credentials and the keys to go do it. But there's still, if you talk to experienced operators, they'll probably tell you it takes about 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
In today's world, we have to accelerate that up. And so, as Neil referred to in the opening remarks, we're investing more in trainers. We're even looking at things as part of our safety audit, virtual reality simulators, where multiple people can get on and put the goggles on and go over the same area where they may need help on an accelerated basis. So that curve is too long, and for the future we've got to shorten that up to help our operators deal with, you know, a complex network. So
thanks.
Yeah. In terms of Wes, I think Wes is at a wonderful stage where, frankly, it's a top-tier performer on a consistent basis. So if we look at where we should spend management time on-time performance, it's really one where it just says maintain. And it deals with, you know, a low day for them typically would be around 95%. So you're at 95 to 98, 99% on-time performance for a really tight run model of a commuter rail service. So.
Well, he's extolling the virtues of the Trimet White Elephant, the West, which is a flop. That money sucks down the money, has a limited amount of passengers, gets plenty of recovery time. I mean, they created the perfect model there because they wanted people to use it. They're not using it. They're still not using it. Never even made the first year rider projection. Yeah, it's on time. Big deal.
We just think in fact, some ways, best to stay out of their way and let them run it because they're doing a great job. In the case of the bus system, similar, we're at the early stages of this, and this one will take quite a bit of time because of the complexity of 86 or so different lines out there. And we're running on you know, public infrastructure here, not just our own, as you would on MAX, where we've got our own controlled infrastructure. So we are at, last year we were at 81.1%. I can report right now we're actually tracking, just in a few months getting into this, actually at the 86% mark in just about 3 or 4 months. So again, it's getting into the details, it's culture, it's you know, tracking your yard departures, not only on trains for MAX, but the same for bus. So it's, and the teams, we're still at the early stages, so I think longer term, we have the long-term plan to get them to that 86 to 90% range over time. So early days, and that will take some time, but
yeah, here you go. He's the culture again. I don't really like this guy, to be honest. I don't trust this guy. There's something fishy about this guy. Don't forget that he got booted out of TransLink in Vancouver over the scandal up there. So there's something about this guy I definitely don't like.
Progress is evident.
So those numbers on the buses, how long were you saying it had improved 5% over?
Well, last year's was 81.1 for the whole year.
Yeah.
Right now, if we compare it to, we're at 86.3% over the last literally 31 days. Wow. So we've literally, just in the early months since end of last calendar year, come up over 5 percentage points, which is huge. Pretty significant for it to start off. So,
thank you.
Just a follow-up question on that. How do you measure on-time performance? I mean, you've got things like construction, you've got weather. I mean, do you take those into account and kind of neutralize them?
An actual great question. I mean, there's so many variables in bus on-time performance, and especially schedule, which he hasn't talked about, by the way. He didn't say anything about schedule problems.
Sure. Well, no, our customer doesn't really care.
Okay.
That's you know, sometimes we have controllable events, and 2/3 of the events are controllable. About 1/3 of our events, we've had a lot of ice storms this year. We've had some pretty challenging weather. we may not be able to control what occurs to us, but we do own the response from thereafter. So the team's been really trying to move to more of a NASCAR-like approach. How little time does it take to remove a fallen tree, to implement response tactics that we may have taken longer time before to get to. So it all counts to the customer, and so we don't let ourselves off the hook. It's any and all factors go into it, whether it be on the train or on the bus system.
Any improvement during the last winter is very impressive in that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. There's no doubt there are some days where, Mother Nature is going to win, and we have to figure out how we respond to that. I would just like to take a second to thank our team. And in my experience in this industry over a number of years, including other agencies, I don't think I've ever seen a team respond so well for so long. A lot of teams are good for the event, but doing it day in, day out, we literally went for weeks and weeks. And again, particularly the maintenance team, where they don't get to rest. When the snow chains have to come on, they got to repair them. Everyone thinks we're just back to normal service. They got a tremendous amount of catch up back to the maintenance facilities to make sure we're good for service that next day.
Very good, thank you.
You said that you have a 3 to 5 year training loop for new drivers?
No, I'm sorry if I said that I was incorrect. If you talk to top operators, they'll indicate it takes about 3 to 5 years for them to get really, really proficient at this particular network.
Okay.
Our initial training program is about a 12-week program, and then we monitor thereafter through a probationary period and with post check-ins and evaluations.
Oh, okay. I guess I misunderstood. But I guess my question is, so what is the retention for trainer or for new bus drivers? How long do they stay in the seat?
I don't have the exact statistic. We can sure get that for you, but I think it's actually quite high. I think we'd be in the like high 80s, if you will. But they may choose to go back if they're driving. You have to be a train operator. You have to go through being a bus operator first. In all cases. In the case of bus operators, some don't make it because of the qualifications, the testing, the rigor we put them through. Some elect that it's not their career choice. But all in all, if you talk to most operators, they're pretty glad they're getting the privilege to serve the public like that. So pretty low percentage of turnover overall.
Okay, I have the next question.
Well, he evaded answering that nicely, didn't he? Yeah, he doesn't have any statistics. I don't think that guy was just asking about rail. I think he was asking about when he talked about retention, when you're training somebody, when you recruit them from out here in the world, how many people actually do make it to pass the probation, actually hang around 5 years or more? I've always wondered that myself. I know that in my particular class, I think it was about 3 people didn't make it out of the 10. So I think those statistics are pretty similar today. Somebody told me it's about half right now are not staying around.
May I?
Oh, sure.
You might explain how many systems we have on the light rail?
Sure, yeah. On light rail, we have 5 different lines. They're all very different, so it's not as though you could train someone you could train them on the principles of how to drive a train. But you have to going over the Tillicum Bridge, for example, is a very different maneuver of switches and knowledge needed, for example, than it would be, say, out in Hillsborough area. So each terrain is very different and has to be learned, and that takes time.
Okay. So my next question, I just have a little bit of a preface. When I drive around, I see flashing on the front of your buses, Trimet is hiring. And we see in the budget that you're going to hire like 78 positions, things like that. So you're definitely in the mode of hiring people. But you've got competition. You've got Seattle and San Francisco and other West Coast cities that pay, I think what we've heard is, very attractive wage and benefit programs. So with this job market favoring job seekers, it's very difficult to attract and maintain qualified people, it would seem to us. So we were just wondering what you've kind of done to make that happen, and especially since you've had to pare back some of your non-represented employee benefit packages.
I'm prepared to at least begin to answer that question, and then I'll turn it over to Randy Stedman to really fill in maybe some more detail. But you're absolutely correct. The job market does favor job seekers, and particularly for technical workers and IT professionals in particular. And we are maintaining our ability to attract and retain talent. For non-represented employees, Trimet closed its defined benefit plan in 2009 and adopted an 80-20 medical plan in 2012. Then, during the recession, we largely curtailed salary increases for non-union employees. So the combination of those two actions did create a flight risk for us, and particularly toward the end of 2013, as the economy improved and technical staff were in demand. For example, non-represented employee turnover spiked to 13.49% in 2015, and voluntary turnover, excluding retirements and terminations, is about 0.5%. So you can see that there was some flight there. And with historically low unemployment in the Portland area, now below 4%, turnover for non-represented employees dropped to 11.36% last year as a result of some mitigation efforts that took hold. And I'm going to refer to Randy Stedman to maybe specifically talk about some of those mitigation.
What she's talking about is the non-union people. They don't give a shit about retaining the union people. They worry about their office workers, their executives, their managers. They're always worried about themselves and their compensation packages. At the same time, they degrade the workers' compensation packages. I mean, it's really disgraceful. I don't know if I can keep watching this because the bullshit piles up so high that I just can't take it. I can't take listening to these people much more.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, despite the increased competition and low unemployment rate, we've still maintained an 86% acceptance to offer ratio, which is extremely high. Where we have noticed strains on the recruitment system is in the time to fill metric that we also track. So it is currently about 74 days. That's down actually from last year at about 90 days, but above where our target is, which is 60 days. So that low unemployment has had an impact, but in terms of our ability to close on candidates that we want to come to work, we've been successful. There's a number of mitigation steps that we put into place as we noticed this flight risk in 2013. One is to simply maintain what is a very good healthcare package. Although it's been pared back, it still allows us to compete very favorably with the private sector on healthcare benefits. Secondly, we have made sure and done a lot of work to make sure that our midpoints of our salary ranges are at the market, and where we are attracting people, make sure that we are offering wages that are commensurate with their knowledge, skills, ability, and experience. For internal candidates, we have, where warranted and within our budget, done market adjustments to make sure somebody is in the salary range at a place that is commensurate with their experience and knowledge, skills, and abilities. We've also added some recruiting resources to help us, especially for IT and technical positions. We've added a technical recruiter, high-level technical recruiter to work on those positions in particular, and reallocated some resources by implementing an automated reference checking software, which is probably the best $50,000 that I've ever spent because it frees up the recruiting resources to build candidate pool, more value-added activities. So I think some of those mitigation steps have taken hold and allowed us to maintain a very high acceptance to offer ratio.
Did you say that you added a dedicated position for IT recruiting?
Yes, it's a contract position at this point.
I see.
It's working on more than just the IT positions, but the upper level positions and the more difficult positions tend to be the IT positions and engineering positions.
Gotcha. Thank you.
This fat man, Stedman, he's worried about these high technical IT people, you know, these IT people. It's hard to find. These are people that can't even get the bus CADs to work, okay? They haven't figured out how to make the bus head signs work. Okay, this is 20 years. They still don't know how to make the bus head signs work, and they're worried about recruiting good people. Okay, what you see here is what's happened in the United States public transportation. They're worried about all these ancillary jobs and whether they're going to be able to get good people to fill them. All those jobs have nothing to do with providing public transportation. Who the hell knows what they're doing? I do know one thing for sure. We know that government lies to us. Trump lies to us. Brown lies to us. Wheeler lies to us. Stedman lies to us. McFarland lies to us. All those people on the committee lie to us. We're not getting any truthful information about anything. All these people are interested in is themselves, their own jobs, their own salaries. They're going to do anything they can to make themselves look good. And it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace what's happened to American public transportation.